Hey, buddy.
Hey, welcome back.
How you doing?
I'm doing all right. The I feel like we're gonna hit our second summer this weekend.
Love it.
It's gonna be like 99 degrees or something crazy on Saturday.
Fantastic. It is not.
It's
but
gonna be hot. Are you guys playing ball on Saturday?
always.
Nice.
Gonna be a good time.
Yeah, blazing out there. Sun's gonna be beating down on you. It's gonna be great for you. I'll be in.
It's gonna be a good time. Do you trust me? Talking about trust here.
We are.
Final nail in the trust coffin of this series. We're wrapping it up, hammering it down, talking trust, talking about repairing trust after broken trust, and thoughts and opinions around what can be done, what opportunities you have to repair trust, and...
So I think last week we talked about trust as like a dial, right? Maybe. I don't know. But trust is like, not like a light switch where I trust you, I don't trust you. I trust you, it's like a dial, right?
like a
it's
dimmer?
Like a dimmer switch or a temperature on your stove, right? You dial it from 0 to high.
Okay.
Right?
Yeah. I remember this.
And so...
We have this conversation on air last week?
I don't know if we did or
Yeah.
not, but we are now.
We are now.
And so, what do you do when you had high trust, and then that gets dialed back?
Down to the old pilot light?
Down to the old pilot light. So, Mitch, tell me about a time when either somebody broke your trust or vice versa. You did something and broke trust with someone else.
Well, being we've talked about this on the old say-do ratio. I like to increase commitment, reduce expectation. I tend not to go along with all that. I like to keep a high, the old say-do ratio high, and one way to do that is to limit the say.
Yeah, right.
Therefore, I'm not a promiser. Take that word very seriously. I don't promise. I don't promise much. Maybe I imply that things are promised. I don't say it. Maybe that's more than my problem. So I'm like, I promise.
But you can break trust without promising something.
Oh, of course.
You know what I mean?
I was just looking at. I was kind of using that as a simpler example.
I'm going to tell you about a story of my time. How's this work for you? When I was little, I'm talking like kindergarten, right? I had my best friend in the whole world. We'll just call him Jason. Okay. Lived across the street. We used to hang out all the time. He had a Nintendo, and then later a Nintendo 64. I had a computer and computer games, but you don't really invite somebody over to sit next to you and play a computer. Like, it's not like that, right? So I used to go over there and hang out. He used to play SimCity, Mario, all that kind of stuff. And well, anyway, one day after school, I asked my mom, "Hey, can I go over and play with Jason?" Right? And she's like, "Yeah, sure, go ahead." So I run across the street, knock on the door. He comes and answers the door, and then he's like, "Oh, I'm sorry. My mom said I can only have one friend over at a time." And I'm like, "Well, who's over?" Right? And let's call him John. I think we talked about him on the podcast. The next door neighbor that we got in a mud fight with. Not a good friend of mine, right? So here, out comes John looking at me.
I thought I was a better therapist than this. I thought we unpacked all this already and we resolved.
It went
this is unresolved.
This is unresolved.
Right, well,
so
for everybody out there in podcast land, I'm not a therapist.
Ran home.
Nor do I play one on television.
Ran home, crawled under the table, sobbing, crying, So, of course, my mom, who's like a female lion, marches across the street and talks to Jason's parents. Of course, Jason's parents never said that. They're like, "No, we didn't say that. Keith's more than welcome to be over here with everyone else." I don't understand. Instant trust break. He just didn't want to hang out with me anymore. Couldn't tell me.
Or maybe he just was hanging out with another friend and he had 2 Nintendo controllers.
I don't know. I'm just telling you what happened, okay?
Did you guys ever hang out again after that?
No, never again.
Wow.
Never again. So, trust broken.
Okay.
Now, the question is,
when's that going to happen to us?
No.
When am I going to have like a different podcast guest? And we're only, oh, sorry, Keith. We only got 2 microphones.
We only have 2 microphones.
We only have 2 microphones.
You can stand there and stand by the webcam.
You will never talk to me again because I brought a guest on the show.
I'd have to.
Very territorial.
But I wouldn't like it. Yeah, no. When I think we talked about. I don't know if we talked about this on the air, but I am a very trusting person, and then, something happens, and I feel that trust is broken, and there's nothing you can do to gain that trust back. Like there's nothing. And so, this episode's really, really difficult for me. Because part of it is like, how do you repair trust, right? And when somebody has a high trust factor. Now, if you've got like a low trust factor with me and you break the trust, I'll still deal with you because, you know what I mean? But it's when you have that high trust factor and it gets broken, like I can't fathom a situation in which I would ever have a high trust factor for you again. Now, conversely, I see that as myself, right? If I'm the one doing the trust breaking, I'm like, there's nothing I can do in the world to make up for it because that's just my mindset. So when you're sitting here trying to talk about how do you repair trust, like I got nothing. Right?
You want a funny story?
Yeah, I want a funny story.
So, family vacation, we like to do the vacation rentals.
Ooh, yeah.
Right? The homes instead of like a hotel or a resort or a little home away from home, right?
Love it.
And those are always, they're unique. If you've ever done those, right? You never know what you're going to get. You can look at all the pictures ahead of time, but there's always like interesting things, especially when you have places where like there's stuff like there's cooking utensils and there's pots and pans and sometimes there's seasonings and especially if there's destinations where like people fly to and then they grocery shop and they buy things and they're not going to throw it away and they're going to leave stuff behind and then like the homeowners or whoever management company is going to throw out the weird stuff but like
you have the cinnamon in there from like 5 years ago.
Or just like, it's a bottle of olive oil that's had 2 tablespoons out of it. Right. Obviously, it's the house olive oil. We're going to, so we're at this house. And I had a coffee pot and I brewed coffee. And we're in a unique location to where like there wasn't like normal coffee creamers or stuff available. And
but you like your coffee black.
I do, but my wife doesn't.
Oh, okay. All right.
So, so I was gonna fix her a coffee. Like I'll pour my cup of black coffee.
Yeah.
I like to pour it first. This is like the only time I serve myself first because I'll pour the cup because I like it black and I'll set it aside because it needs to cool down. Whereas any coffee you're gonna add anything else in the home kitchen, it's gonna cool. It's gonna cool down more.
Almost instantaneous.
So I'm working on my timing of things. So I'll pour a cup of black coffee, set it off to the side. And I'm opening up cabinets, looking around, and there's these 2 little Rubbermaid container, little, Tupperware like things. And they're full of white powdery, right?
That doesn't look like flour.
Grab it, pull it down, open up. That's not flour. Right. Boom, throw a couple tablespoons in, stir it up, put in some milk, serve her coffee, and we're sitting down on the porch, and and hers just sits there, right? I'm drinking my coffee, and she picks this up, takes a big old swig of this stuff. It was salt, Keith.
Oh, jeez.
I put in like 2 tablespoons of salt.
You didn't think to taste test it a little bit?
No. So then she's like, "What have you done?" Right? So I said, "Okay. Oh my gosh, I'm so sorry." She's like, "What was that?" So I go back in, and got the. It was like the container's still out there.
Yeah, yeah.
I pick up a pinch of it, throw it on my tongue. I was like, "Oh yeah, that's salt," right? So I dump out her coffee, rinse out the cup, fill it up, grab the other container, bust it open.
You didn't taste test it?
2 tablespoons in it. Take it out. She takes it. She was like, "Oh, it's the same thing."
There's 2 containers of
There's
salt?
2 containers of the salt.
Geez.
Neither one of them was sugar. And she was like, "That could have been like cocaine or something."
Yeah,
You just
seriously,
went
like,
through
what
2
the
tablespoons of random stuff from a crazy house that just right in my coffee.
Could have been baking soda. Could have been, could have been
Could have
all
been
kinds of
borax.
things. Yeah, I mean,
could have been laundry detergent.
Explode in the coffee. Wow.
Anyway,
So you broke her trust,
like consecutively.
and the 3rd cup, she didn't trust you anymore.
No,
She made her own coffee.
I found some brown sugar.
Some brown sugar.
Found some brown sugar.
So what you're saying is the moral to the story is salted coffee does not taste good.
Not salted caramel. There's definitely a difference. But anyway, but she has since allowed me to
Resume coffee making.
Mm-hmm.
It's very nice of her. It's very nice of her.
I thought it was a funny story about somebody making the. It's almost, what's the definition of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again, expecting different results. Yeah, I was borderline insane. If I would have did it one more time, I would have been insane
I don't know
and
why
single.
you didn't taste it the second time. I mean, the first time I kind of understand, but the second time, and who puts salt in a giant container like
It
that?
wasn't a giant container either. It was a small container.
Oh,
It was
yeah?
a little 2-cup deal.
Little
Little
2-cupper?
2-cup Tupperware thing.
Terrible. So yeah, no, I think that you brought up a good. I think you brought up a good point, which is
Did I?
early on you kind of we breezed past it, but I like to talk about. We talked about the say-do ratio, but I also like to talk about under promising and over delivering. Right? And
yeah.
I think you're on board with this. So like, if somebody's like. If you're like, hey, I need this done.
But you give me so much trouble about this. Like someday I'm going to show up to something that I never said I was going to come to, and you're going to be like, "Hey, you came."
Yeah, no. The thing is, like, there's a difference.
Or you won't say
between
anything because it'll be like your funeral or something.
Promising and delivering versus under promising and delivering. For example, if you came to me and said, "Hey, Keith, I need you to get this podcast edited and up as quickly as you possibly can. When do you think that you can get that done?" Right?
Okay.
Well, I'm not going to, realistically, I'm going to try not to say, I can do it in an hour, right? I'm going to say, well, I'll try today, but it's pretty busy, so it might be tomorrow. Right?
Okay.
And then, so when I get it done in a couple hours and I text you and I say, hey, done, you're like, wow, I thought it was going to be tomorrow. Right?
You're just setting expectations.
You're setting but you're under promising on those expectations, and then you're over delivering.
Yeah, but if we're playing cards, if this was a card game, it was a team card game, we're playing pitch, right? If you will.
Not for money.
Right? Or spades or
Just
some
for
of those
fun.
other card games that are fun and team.
Bridge.
That's called sandbagging.
Well,
So there's a ratio with which
sure.
you gotta be. Do you believe that? Do you believe there's this ratio you need to be within? And you're
No.
and how strategic are you about your under promising?
I'm pretty strategic about it. I try to give myself enough time so that if something does happen, I can still deliver on the promise. So strategically, I don't try to. Now, I'm not going to say, "Oh, I'll get it done in a couple of weeks," and then an hour later it's done. Right? That would be crazy.
Sandbagging.
That would be crazy sandbagging. But I try to give myself enough room that you're pleasantly surprised that it was done earlier than expected. But then if something happens, then it's okay. Now you, on the other hand, you sandbag. You're like, oh, don't expect me to do any of that stuff. My life's busy. I'm not even sure I can make it to the podcast today. And then, like, you show up on time.
I feel like you're projecting this on me.
Then you show up on time.
I don't feel like this isn't. I don't feel like this is an accurate description at all. I've never said those words.
So, under promising and over delivering, I think, is a really great way to try to. You don't have to repair trust if it's not broken, right? And so I think that's kind of your perspective. Is it's easier to not promise things and to, if you do, under promise and over deliver on.
Yeah, and I think a lot of my
repair trust.
I think a lot of my broken promises can be explained away with sheer ignorance. For example, I think probably like the stuff I'm like most guilty of would be like the kids would be like, "Hey, can we have pizza for dinner tonight?" I'm like, "Yeah, sure, man. Sounds great. We'll do that." And then like
your wife's like,
that like
we're going out to dinner.
That there was we had chicken wings set out of the freezer 2 days ago that we it's like the one night that we're home, so that was the plan to make And I was like, oh yeah, sorry man, we're doing chicken wings tonight. But you said, well, I was wrong.
You should have had pizza and wings.
Yeah, like just sorry.
I was wrong.
See, right? I didn't know the answer either.
Does that work well for people that are, by other people's viewpoint, less like if you're I'm not trying to say intelligent, right? Like if you're smart, I'm not trying to say that, but I'm just trying to say like if you're knowledgeable about the dinner situation, like if you're the guy that makes dinner every week, right? And then kids are like, "Hey, come here, pizza," and you're like, "Yeah," and then you're like, "Oh, I forgot about this, sorry." Like, but you make the dinner every week. Why didn't you remember, right? Like versus being the guy that like helps make the dinner but doesn't necessarily plan.
It was just
you forgot.
Yeah,
you
like
pulled the wings out and forgot.
I'm just generally. I think that's the.
You broke that pizza trust. Now, how do you bring back that pizza trust?
Or I'll like change things. Like, they'll say, it'll be like, "Oh yeah, I've got the old grade cards came out and got the positives across the board or the 4s or letter grades later on or what like oh." Hey, hey, can we get Dairy Queen? Yeah, sure. Right?
Then you see the grade card and you're like, nope.
No, but then you go out, and then like, and this was one too, like I don't like lines. Like I've like passed that on to my kids too. So like, it's like we drive, go like, to Dairy Queen, the lines around the building, they're like,
that's a no for me, dog.
I'm like, I know I said Dairy Queen, fellas, but they're like, yeah, let's go somewhere else.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, Quick Trip's going to put everybody out of business in every fast food life. Have you had their cone?
No, we
holy smokes! It's as long as your forearm.
Really?
I don't know. Like,
do you have to special order it? Like you have to go to the thing and
you go to the thing and you touch the screen and you order the odd thing about it is you don't pay at the screen. You take your little printed receipt and then you go over to the counter and you pay there, whatever. But then it's a little process. You do the thing. You order the cone.
How long does it take? If you order something,
it's like
from the
instantaneously,
screen. Really,
with the cone.
Yeah.
Like
with the cone,
because the kitchen's like completely open too. It's like right there. So I do the thing. I have the cone. It prints out the receipt. I carry the receipt over the counter, and I'm watching as the server walks across the kitchen. I pay the guy, walk around to the other side, and all of a sudden, here she's handing me a cone with a 18-inch ice cream tower on top of it. It's every bit of 7 inches.
We used to growing up when we'd see our grandparents down the Lake of the Ozarks. There was a place called Gorilla Burger. I don't know if it's still there or not. I would assume it is.
It's a great name.
Yeah, and they had a giant gorilla statue outside of it. Well, their burgers are okay, but they're famous for their ice cream. They got a little window. You can go in, but they got a little window facing the sidewalk or whatever. You get an ice cream cone. And you can get a small, medium, or large, right? And the small is probably like 12 inches of ice cream, right? And the large is like,
how do they do it?
24. I mean, you watch them, and it's like this art where they like swirl, and then they push
up. Yep.
And then down, swirl up, and keep going. But I mean, there's things like, you get a small, I'd be like 6. And it's like bigger than my arm, or
And you got to
whatever.
eat that.
You got to eat all of
before it falls off, or
it. And hot summer, it's just ice cream all over the sidewalk. But yeah, you know what I don't like though is when you go through a Dairy Queen and you're like, I need the smallest ice cream you can possibly put in a cone and make it still look like an ice cream. Like I need just barely over the top of it. Yeah, okay, no problem. And then it's like 4 inches, off of it.
easy remedy for that.
Well, yeah, no, they hand it to me. I go, take off 3
the
inches
dad bite.
and then give it back. But then I get an ice cream headache. I'm very susceptible to ice
Do
cream
you
headaches.
know not everybody gets ice cream headaches?
I did not know that.
So,
I know how to fix it. Put your tongue
so my oldest doesn't get ice cream headaches. So we talked about it. I was like, "No, you do." And he's like, "No, I don't." So we had
Just
this
doesn't have a
conversation.
brain
So
to
we went,
freeze.
yeah. So we went and looked it up. It's terrible. He looked it up and found a YouTube video about it. But there's this cluster of nerves
Not
that
everyone
are all connected, that come along your jaw and then up towards your sinuses and then also around the back of your throat.
Yeah.
Well, they just get confused. So the sensation, this cluster of nerves gets stimulated, the back of your throat with the ice cream, but then it's overstimulated, so it just fires on all those nerves. So then you're feeling it
in your head.
in your forehead because it's that same cluster of nerves. And
Interesting.
there's probably scientists out there that's like, you just butchered that
You just
explanation.
butchered that so bad.
But go watch the YouTube video.
But then why does it work when you put your thumb on the roof of your mouth?
I don't know. It was just
See, I
explaining.
thought it was the roof of your mouth that got cold, and it's so close.
It's
to
all
your
within
brain.
that same nerve cluster, and that nerve cluster, it's like three branches to it.
You ever? I made this deadly mistake once, and don't ever do it. You have to trust
died?
me on this. No, I almost did.
Okay.
We were driving to Minnesota. It's a long trip, right? Stopped at the Quick Trip here. Got a biscuit, and for some reason I got a slushie. I was like, it's 6 o'clock in the morning. Biscuit and a slushie sounds right.
Interesting.
And it was like this weird mixture of cold. Ooh, that's cold. Hot, cold, hot, cold, hot, cold, hot. My brain, its stomach, everything did not know what to do with it. It was the weirdest feeling in the world. I won't go into detail.
Okay.
But let's just say I had to put the biscuit and the slushie down. I was like, I can't now do either one of them. It was insane. Don't do that. Don't get you an ice cream and a hot coffee.
Oh, that kind of sounds good, though.
I don't know. Maybe.
I always have coffee with ice cream. Always coffee with dessert.
Interesting. Coffee and pie. A la mode.
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah. Of the fashion.
So, repairing trust. Yeah, man, this is hard. This is really hard because I don't know, like, just trying to think about.
It's almost like we need a guest that,
Is an expert in this.
or just somebody that we've so grotesquely offended with our lack of responsibility that they just call us out on it on the air. We could.
I think the key is if you do get in the situation where you have where you break a promise and you lose some trust, you got to own it first.
I think
right?
humility is the answer
Yeah.
to trust repairing.
Yeah.
I think that if there's
No excuses. No, I know this happened, but
yes,
right.
humility is the only path forward for resolving broken trust.
And then continuing on a path of making sure to not do it again. Mm-hmm. Right. And then over time that
And then you have,
fixes
I think also an important thing is owning your mistake, being humble by that, and then also relinquishing the right to. You can't control how long it takes someone for that trust to be repaired, right?
Right.
You can't
put a time frame.
You can't be like, well,
Think of all the great
I've kept my promises for 2 weeks now.
Yeah.
Can't you forgive me? Well, they might forgive you, but the track record isn't back to repair the trust, and you don't get to decide that time frame.
Yeah, and I also think that there are some actions that you can still be humble about, apologize for, but that trust it'll never, you should be humble and apologize if you truly mean it, but then understand that trust maybe could never be repaired. And I don't mean like my elementary school friend, right? I mean like there's some things like abuse and stuff like that that other person shouldn't trust that person again. So there are some situations that I think, it's just one and done, right? Or should be one and done. But for the most part, I mean, I keep all my promises. Ask my wife.
There we go. Should have had a guest.
That would have been terrible. That would have been terrible. No, but and I also think that and I think you would agree with this with me, is that you can't just you can't just keep your promises on the big stuff. All of it matters too.
Oh, for sure.
Right? Like, I can't just be like, well, Shauna, when I married you, I promised I'd never cheat on you. And I haven't cheated on you, but, I lie to you all the time. Right? Like, that doesn't, you know what I mean? Like, that doesn't make it better. So you have to have a good track record, even in the small stuff. So if you say you're going to be home by a certain time, be home by a certain time. If you're consistently not home by a certain time, you're breaking that trust down, right? I just made up what I thought was a benign example, but I don't know, with all the phones now, everybody can see, you can see where exactly you are. So, I mean, it's like whatever.
All right. Well, do you do that? Do you, everybody tracked?
Yeah. So, my wife, my daughter's phone, my mom, and my brother, and then my wife has her mom and her nieces.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, you always want somebody to know where you're at, right? So my brother's not married or anything like that. So it's like, he intentionally shares his location so that. We don't hear from him for a couple of days. We could be like, oh, he's probably in a business trip in, Arizona. Okay, that sounds great, right? Or, he's home for a couple of days and he hasn't texted me back. Maybe I should go check on him.
I only do that with like backcountry backpacking trips. Like, we're going into the woods at this trailhead on this date. We plan on being back out on this date.
Yeah, do you sign the log?
Yeah, text you then.
Yeah.
But other than that.
You don't share your location with family?
No,
Why not? You have something to hide?
Nobody's ever looking for anybody.
I find it useful for we
haven't lost anybody yet.
I find it useful for when Shauna's driving home from work, I can see when she's left work.
Does it give you like an exact ETA?
Not really. You can send somebody an exact ETA. But when you're looking at somebody, you can kind of see it gives you an estimated minutes, like if you were going to travel there, but not from them to get to you, because the app doesn't know that they're coming to you, right, or wherever. So we just do I'll just see oh, okay, she's left. Oh, she's made it past downtown, so that's about 20 minutes. I should probably clean the house from the disaster that it probably is, so that it looks like it's been clean all day.
Oh, here's a new one. I have the app for my auto insurance.
Oh, mm-hmm.
And there was
you have your policy cards right there.
Yep. Right. Great. There's an app for everything. So then it tells me on there, oh, we'll reduce your bill.
Oh, don't do that.
If you sign up for this thing. Mm-mm. And I was like, what's this thing? And then it shows a little picture of, it's
a little thing that plugs into your...
It tracks your speed and it tracks your,
Oh, maybe through your phone.
And I thought, oh, okay. My maps already do that. Your maps on your phone already know how fast you're going. They know what the speed limit is. They, it can tell how much you're slowing down, right? Mm-hmm. I was like, oh, well, I already collect that data anyway. If I use my maps ever.
But it's not sharing it with your insurance provider.
I know, but I'm a great... Who then
could also raise your rates.
But I'm a great driver. So I was like, oh, okay. So I signed up for the thing. Mm-hmm. Anyway... No, they're going to mail me some puck to attached to my vehicle.
Yeah, because your phone can't determine hard stops and stuff like that. Your car
I didn't
does.
know that.
Yeah, it attaches the same
Anyway,
thing.
they got me. I got like way down the process. I was like, yeah, sure, sounds great. And
So
then
you're
it's
gonna
like,
do it?
well, the thing's
That's a lot
coming.
of trust.
No, the thing's coming in the mail. I'm like, I just probably don't have the follow through to like plug it in
I'll plug it in.
and like go back to the app and be like, oh, I got it in the mail. I plugged it into my car.
Yeah. I had a buddy do it, and there's a really weird way around it where you have to. It'll track your drive or whatever, but if like something bad happened during the drive, like you had to slam on your brakes or something like that, you can put in there someone else was driving. You'd be like, oh no, that wasn't me. I was in the passenger seat. So you can like, you work around it anyway. Like I just like, for me, I just feel like those things are for insurance companies to raise your rates, not really reduce your rate, right? Like you're gonna tell them like a 2-week or a month's period of time whether I'm a good driver or not. Like I don't know. That's as the kids say these days, sus.
I mean, I drive really slow, and I'm always going to make a right-hand turn. That blinker's always on, baby.
Click, 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 click.
That's a joke.
Yeah, I don't trust that. But it's like when we first got phones, everybody's talking about like, oh, like Google knows exactly where you're at. And if you walk into a store, they know what aisle you're in and all this kind of stuff. And don't trust it, or whatever. And I'm just like, at a certain age, I was like, what am I hiding? I don't really care if I walk into Walmart and go down the sporting goods aisle and my app, my phone knows and starts sending me softball bat ads. Like, why do I care?
I don't know. I'm thinking about going back to landline now.
Why?
I don't know. Our conversation's got me.
Well, that's all the time we have now.
All right. Bye, guys.
See ya.